Hey crafty cuties, welcome back to my channel. So it is May now, and that means it is time for another walrus. And I am very excited because I always love to work on the walruses. It's just, I just think they're so fun. However, May is a complicated one because I won't say there's not a lot of holidays in May, because there are two big ones. In America, at least. There's Mother's Day is always in May, and Cinco de Mayo. But Cinco de Mayo is an American holiday, and it's not actually that important to Mexican culture. And I feel like any walrus that I try to decorate in Cinco de Mayo attire would be based on stereotypes, and I wouldn't want to do that. And then for Mother's Day, I mean, aside from the arbitrary fact that I said all my walruses were going to be boys, it's just, I don't really know how to make a walrus look like a mom. When I was asking my friends about it, they were all like, you should do a mom walrus with a little baby walrus. And yes, I can see that that would be very cute, but I don't really know if I could do a baby walrus. It would kind of be me making up the pattern to scale it down, which I'm not opposed to because I do want a tiny walrus, but that does feel a little wrong because it's not my pattern in the first place. I don't know, it might not be like wrong because it's not really ill-intentioned, and I wouldn't be writing down the pattern for the baby walrus, obviously, because that would just be kind of like the original designer's pattern scaled down, so it's not really my own creative idea. And on top of that, then if I did Mother's Day, I would feel compelled to do Father's Day, which isn't a bad thing, but if I do a baby for Mother's Day, wouldn't I do a baby for Father's Day? And then like the whole decoration of the walrus is just a separate walrus, and I really am more into giving them a costume, where I do think I could probably give like a mom type costume. I also think like, I don't know, just a bit weird to do a mom walrus. But all that is to say, I have gone with the theme of spring because there's also May Day, which is in May. I think it's more of a British holiday. I'm not positive about that. It's basically the start of spring. And the main imagery I could find with it was the maypole, which is just like a pole with ribbons hanging off that people dance around, which is fun, but to just put a pole on a walrus seems a bit weird. So I'm just going with general spring, and I'm gonna call it May Day. And also, the vernal equinox was in late April, but spring is often associated with May, and there's that saying that April showers bring May flowers, so I'm kind of going with that and just doing spring for May. Also because I feel like I do want to do a walrus for each of the seasons in the months, so this is a good place to do spring, because it was either April or May, and April had better holidays to pick from than May. So let's go over my design concepts. Here you can see my first one was just making the walrus look like a flower, putting a little bee on it, maybe a little butterfly, or just any sort of pollinator bug. I think it would be pretty cute. It is a bit simple, but I do think it'd be pretty cute. My second idea was just butterfly wings, because they're also associated with spring. And then from there I was like, what else do I add? So I added a flower crown. I could have added an antenna and made it just look like a butterfly, but overall, as soon as I was like, what else do I put, I kind of scrapped this idea. The third one I think would just be pretty cute. I called it Flower Field. It would basically be the bottom half of him was a flower field, and then the top half was like the sun. And I think that'd be pretty cool and ornate, but as I thought about it, like in my drawing, the walrus tusks are so tiny and the eyes are so high up, but when I make them, the eyes are a lot lower down and the tusks come down further. And so I was thinking, with how far down the tusks come, and then the cloud necklace, there would be almost no space to embroider the flower field. So it was a bit unfortunate. I don't think that one will really work, even though I think it would be cool. I could move the eyes and stuff up, but I do want them to be consistent across all the walruses, so I don't want his eyes to be like higher, because then you look at them all and you'd be like, why is his face so high? And then my last one is just a tiny one. It's a strawberry walrus, because I was like, berries are kind of associated with spring and like flower growth, as well as like crops start to grow back in the spring. I'm not sure if strawberries are a spring berry or if they're summer, but fun fact, I'm already making a strawberry walrus, even though it is just a pink walrus right now. One of my coworkers commissioned me to make a strawberry walrus because they thought it was cute when they saw my little sketch of it. So I'm gonna make one of those, but you know, not for this month. So as you may have been able to infer, I am going with Flower Walrus. I do think it is a bit simple, but I think it'll still look nice. I have found that like my walruses keep kind of building up in complexity. Like my first one was kind of simple, and then my next one was a bit more complex, and then the next one after that had a bit more to it as well. But if I keep doing that, by December my walrus would have to be incredibly ornate, and it would be a big standard to live up to just try and keep one-upping the walrus from last month, which I just think I need to focus on making a cute design and a nice walrus. So that's what I'm gonna do. So the flower I'm going with is the Coneflower. As you can see, I wanted to do a petal with more, or I wanted to do a flower with like droopy petals that kind of came down, as opposed to like petals around the head, because then I felt like it would give more of an all-around look, where if the head was the flower, it would be a bit stranger, because then it would be like the body is the stem, but the body is incredibly thick, and there's the back of the head, and I just felt like it would make more sense to do the droopy petals, and I thought it would look a lot nicer. So I'll put a picture of a coneflower up here. As you can see, they have purple petals, which I think is nice because I haven't really used purple yet, and the heads of them are like dark brown with orange tips. I wanted to do like a yellow head because I associate yellow with spring, but it just doesn't really make sense, so I went with orange. And as the standard is now, I do have the walrus pre-made, and he looks like a carrot. He looks very silly. I would have done lighter orange tests, but I only have the one orange yarn. I have browns, which are dark orange, but only the one orange, and I think the yellow works fine anyways. I tried to do seamless color change, and I think it's pretty seamless. Like it's pretty straight across, whereas if you don't do the seamless color change, you get kind of a zigzaggy. But I don't know if you can really see, but the seamless color change kind of picks a dip in it, which is a bit weird, and I'm not the biggest fan of. But hopefully the petals are gonna go right here on this divide, so hopefully that kind of hides that. So if you look at cornflowers, they are kind of like a red violet, or like more of a pinky, maybe not even purple, maybe I shouldn't have called them purple, but because they're pretty red, pretty pink. But in my head they were purple when I came up with this idea, and then he gets to stick in a secondary color palette if you don't look at his tusks. So we're gonna go with purple. And I have two purple yarns. I think this one kind of leans more toward the red violet, obviously, but this one is a lighter color, which I associate with spring more. So it's like, which one do I go for? I was kind of thinking of maybe doing both, like if they were darker at the base and then they got lighter, but I'm also not sure how I'm gonna make these petals, because they are going to be not made in the round. They're gonna be flat pieces that I kind of make in a sheet and just sew around his neck. I drew here about what I think the petal will look like. If you can see here, I think 2.5 inches is about as long as I want it. If you've done a lot of crochet flat, you would know that you can make the base chain and go around both sides of it, which would give you a nice single crochet border around your thing. Or you can kind of make the base chain like the bottom of it and then build out from the bottom. So it's basically, you're either building from the middle out or you're building from the top down. And I think the middle out approach looks nicer. I think the crochet border around it is a lot nicer. It's a lot softer. It doesn't look as harsh. But I also think that's a bit harder. I would basically be doing size variations with variations in stitch type, like a single crochet, a double crochet, treble, and so on, to make like the different height of it to get the different width of the petals, which is fine. But then it leaves me with like a very open kind of texture, which I'm not sure is what I want, because that looks more like a leaf than a petal. So I'm thinking I might try to do the sheet from the top down and then give it a border, which is something that's very common when you make flat crochet, is to give it a stitch around the edge to give it that same kind of border. It's not as nice, I don't think, because it maybe stretches out the stitches a little bit, but it will be good for what I'm going for. And in that way, it would be a lot easier to do a gradient, like starting from this purple and this one, even though I don't think these purples gradate very well together. Like, if you put these two together, even though they're both purple, they don't super go together. I've been thinking about this for a minute now, and I don't know, because this purple looks more like cornflower or coneflowers, but this purple looks more like spring. I think it's maybe a bit more important to go more with spring, because if you don't know it's a coneflower, you could at least know that it is a flower and associate more with spring if it's a lighter color. So I think I will go with this more lilac-y color, but just know that I consider the other one for a very long time. Yeah, and I think, so I need to figure out how to do that petal for sure. And then I'll need to make a bunch of them to put around them, because on the coneflowers, they kind of get wider and then thinner again. Like in the pictures, they kind of look like they start off as thin as they end, and I will probably make them a bit wider toward the top just so that they cover more of this stitch or the seam area. I am going to do some experiments and see how I can get this petal to look the way I want it to, and I'll see you guys back when I have figured that out. So here is my petal. This is actually the first one I made, and I think I actually maybe did get it on my first try. So as I said, I was going to be making this from the top down and putting a border around the outside, which you can maybe see. I used a kind of tiny hook, so might be hard if you don't know what you're looking for. But yeah, and putting the border around made the petal curve, which I didn't expect, but honestly, it's really nice because that's kind of like how flowers would do anyway. And I mean, it's maybe seems a bit small, but I didn't want it to cover his arms, so it's just gonna take a bunch of them. So I guess now I just have to make like 20 more of these, because where I switched it, I think it's like 54 around, and so the top of this I made 3, so 54 divided by 3 is 18, I'm pretty sure. So I need at least 18 of these. So it is the next day, obviously. It took a lot longer making all those petals than I thought. I guess I did expect it to take a while, but it is the next day because I was done yesterday when I finished the petals. Tucking in the ends for them was a bit odd because if I wanted to tuck it in like normal, I risked losing like the nice little kind of point I got. I tried to just snip them very close, like the lazy person's way of weaving in an end, but then the thing came unraveled because I snipped it too close, and it happened to 2 of them, so we're just gonna try to put those ones in the back. I guess I'll start in the front. I think I want one to hang from the middle of him. I was kind of debating whether I wanted in the middle or if I wanted the middle to be split into 2, like so, but I think that kind of echoes the tusks a bit too much, so this will be a bit nicer. It's also hard to tell what the facing side should be. On this side, you have the ridge from where I did the border, but on this side, you can see my decreases a bit more, and they're not that good looking. Oh, I pointed to the wrong spot. They're up here, where my decreases are. Maybe you can't see them, but I think that I would rather the side with the border facing out, because I think that'll look nicer. It was also weird making these because the tail that I'm using to weave in is actually the starting chain or the starting tail, so I had to make sure to leave it long at the start. It was a process, but I think they're good. I think they are a tiny bit short. Like looking at them like this, you're like, that's pretty short for how big this walrus is. But once you put it on him, like, it seems like it's a pretty good length. It's just so much of his head is orange. I guess I could have had the flower like hanging above his eyes, but then what would I have done with the rest of his body? So, I think this is the best case scenario for this little guy, and I'm gonna try to attach one of these petals and we'll see how that goes. So right now he looks like he has a little tie. Oh, you can kind of see the end. It's a bit frayed. Well, not much I can do about that now. I like these to look a bit more polished than that, but maybe if whatever petal here overlaps that, it won't be too noticeable. So I guess now it's just time to sew on all 18 of these and hope that 18 is enough. So as per usual with my little walrus series, I like to talk about the holiday that I'm basing the walrus on. So for May Day, obviously, I don't really know much about May Day. I'm not even sure if it's a widely celebrated holiday. It at least isn't to me personally, and I don't really think it is in the United States, just in general. Like, seen the maypole, and I've only seen it in like British contexts, in like British media. So maybe it's more popular over there, or maybe that it is equally insignificant. But May Day is just kind of a stand-in for spring, and I'm quite fond of spring. I think it's probably my second favorite season, after winter, which is my favorite. I love nature and plants. I know you can't see it, but on my windowsill right over there, let's see. You can see my little plants. I don't really have flowers, which are more associated with spring, but I do like plants. I'm not very good at keeping them, but which is why I only have cactus and succulents. But I think they're really pretty. It'd definitely be nice one day to have like a garden full of flowers. But I mean, like, it's not that special to say I'm a fan of flowers, you know? I feel like probably everybody likes flowers and like nature to an extent, you know? But I always really liked nature, even though I don't necessarily love being out in nature. I think it's really pretty, and I always love to look at bonsai trees are super cool, and just like all the different flowers there are in the world and how weird they are. Like, there's this flower called the bleeding heart, which like looks like a heart that's been cracked open and is like dripping out, which is super strange. And like there's flowers where where they kind of look like animals. Like I've seen a flower that looks like a duck, and people will say like, how does the flower know what a duck look like? Where I live, spring is incredibly hot, but so I don't love the weather that comes with it, even though I know that's not the typical weather that comes with spring. But then again, where I live, winters are pretty hot too, and I prefer the cold. Like today, it's mid-May. It's not even mid-May, it's pretty early May, and it was like 90 degrees outside today. So I'm not a fan of the heat coming back for sure, but that's not spring's fault. That's the state's fault. So I can't blame that on spring. But now that I'm done with my semester, I feel like I'm gonna have a lot more time for crochet. I'm gonna have a lot more time for everything. I'm excited to get back into playing video games because I haven't been able to do that like since last semester or even winter break, and I am missing it. I used to play video games all the time. Not all the time, but it used to be like a nice little pastime for me, and I haven't been able to do that in a very long time. Okay, you know, I am growing on these flower petals. I think it just needed a bit more of them. I really see the flower now. Even if the orange head is a bit not very traditionally flower, I can definitely see it now. Okay, I'm feeling better about this. Oh, and then if you look at it from the top, it'll just look like a flower. That'll be cute. But I haven't made a video in a bit because my finals were so crazy, or my finals and portfolio review were so busy. But yeah, I guess I should say that I did get into the art program. I really was surprised and just really excited about it because I didn't get in my first time, so I was like, well, it's probably never gonna happen. But I did manage to get in, so that was very exciting. One of the main reasons I didn't do videos for so long was because I was working on all my art that I had to show for that portfolio review. So I'm really, really happy that I was able to get in, and I'm looking forward to starting that program next semester. It should be a lot of fun. And I started a job as a graphic designer for my campus. So I work with our like little firm here. It's like not exactly a graphic design firm, more like a production studio. We do a lot of the signage around campus and we print stuff for people. So that's been really fun too. So for this over the summer, the main reason I needed to move into this apartment instead of moving back home was because I got the job, so I need to stay here so I can continue working. But it's all really exciting. Things are pretty fun. So I don't know how videos are gonna go next semester when I have my program and my job going at the same time. But over the summer, at least, I should be able to make some pretty cool crochet stuff because I've been wanting to, like I said, get back into playing video games. I've also like not been able to crochet a ton in the time that I've been working on my school. So I'm excited to do that again. Like I have a blanket that I haven't been able to work on in a long time that I really wanted to do. I had another blanket that was going to be my summer project that I'm excited to be able to start. I've been wanting to get back into drawing because I haven't done any drawing in a long time, and there's some stuff that I've been wanting to draw, so I'm excited to do that. Yeah, hopefully the summer is fun for me. While we're on the topic of subjects I always bring up during my walrus videos, names for the walrus. Yeah, I have not decided on any names for my little guys in the background. Thank you guys for your comments of name suggestions. Those are really fun to read, and I do look at them and I think about them, but I feel like I want to give them names when I have names for all three of them, so I haven't decided yet. I do like my idea that I brought up last time of giving them like Italian names, because I think the designer who made this pattern is Italian. I'm not positive. Their name sounds Italian. Her name is Ilaria Caliri, and that sounds Italian to me. She also goes by Arieli Design, so you should definitely look up her patterns if you're into amigurumi, because she makes some really great stuff. But the walrus pattern is called Caterino the Walrus, and I mean, that sounds Italian, right? It sounds Italian to me, so it kind of makes me want to name them Italian things. The Italian word for flower, which I've just looked up, is fiore, I think, which, I mean, that's an okay name. I feel like it sounds maybe a bit too much like fire in English, or maybe just even sounds a bit too much like flower. The word for spring is primavera, which, I mean, primavera sounds really cool, but I feel like I've heard that word used before. Maybe I'm confusing it with like prima donna. That's probably what I'm doing. But primavera is pretty cool, and so is fiore. I wonder if there's a Italian word for coneflower, which is the specific type of flower that I'm making this walrus. Oh, look at this. Look at all these petals. That's so nice. Yeah, I'm getting more into this. I like how malleable they are, how I can kind of fold them. I think I want them to curl down most of the time, but it's nice. I really did not expect these petals to look great. I mean, I thought they were gonna look fine, and then I started putting them on and I thought, ooh, this might not be the vibe. But I think it's working. I think it's looking pretty good. It is yet another new day. There's no reason this walrus is supposed to take me this long, but stuff just keeps coming up when I try to record, and I feel like that's gonna happen again today, because me and my roommate are supposed to go to IKEA in a little bit, so hopefully I can finish this walrus before then, but we'll see. So, I did finish attaching all the petals, and I gave him a nose. I think he looks really nice. He does look bald, but that is maybe because I've given absolutely every one of my other walruses hats. But I am going to remedy that. I am going to put a bee on his head. Where is it? Yeah, I'm gonna give him a bee. I don't know how small I'm gonna be able to make this bee, because he's not huge, but he's not small. And for a bee to be that small might be difficult. To try to make the bee small, I'm gonna be using my smallest hook. It's a 3.5 millimeter, or is it 3.25? It's 3.25. So, I mean, I've used this on most of my walruses to do small details, so that's what I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna make it the same yellow as his tusk to keep in the color scheme. I was wondering about making the black stripes this red so it's still in the color scheme, but black is already there in his eyes, so I think it'll be fine. Instead of doing color changes, I might just embroider the stripe around it, because it will be so small, and then if I do color changes, it will entail making a bigger bee. So I'm gonna have to make it real small. I feel like it's probably gonna be like maybe 9 around. It might be able to be a bit bigger because, like I said, I am using this tiny hook, but we'll have to see. And its wings are gonna be have to be super tiny because he is gonna be really small as well, the bee. So here is my tiny bee. It is super small. Its wings are just 4 single crochet in a magic ring that I've now stitched down to make this tiny itty bitty bee. And honestly, it could be a bit bigger, but I think this is good. And yeah, like I said, I did just embroider these little stripes on because they are so thin that they don't really need to be a whole color changed row. So I'm just gonna stitch him onto the head, and then I think that'll be done. He does look a little more plain than some of the ones I've done before, but I think that's fine. It looks like he's finished now that I've finished showing on the bee. So let's get a little reveal. Let me put his petals all in a nice way. Ready? Ba-ba-da-ba. He's very cute. I really do like the way he turned out. He looks just like a flower. And I love the little bee. It's a nice little touch. I'm really pleased with this. It is more simple than some of the other ones. Looking at this, it's like straight up a flower with a bee on it, which I think is a really cool like optical illusion. Even this looks like a stem. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this actually. It's a bit more simple like I've been saying this whole time, but I still really like the way it turned out. So let me go grab the other 3 walruses and we'll look at them all together. Okay, I'm gonna try to pick them all up at the same time. Ooh, this is gonna be really hard soon enough. Ugh. Okay, this isn't working. Okay, I think I've got them. There they are. The year so far, minus January. I think they look really nice together. It's hard to tell if they're all the same size because I know for a while February was bigger than the rest of them, and it must be just a tension thing. I also did the decreases not invisible, and they started, and the 2 here on my right are crocheted the right way, where these 2 are inside out, which, you know, it's a fun little transition to show like how I've just grown over the year learning how to consistently do invisible decreases, which I only remember how to do them sometimes a while back, but now I can always do them. And even just like my tension and crocheting the right way instead of inside out, it's a nice little way to keep track of everything that I've learned so far. But yeah, here we have my little May walrus, my flower. As always, leave suggestions in the comments for any names you might have for him. If you have an Italian inspired name, even better, but I'm taking all names because I still don't have any names for these guys. After all this time, you'd think I'd know one, but oh well. And yeah, let me know what you think of him in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you back here next week with more crochet and DIY based content.